The Giants swept the Dodgers. Oh, baby. This is huge. The Giants swept the Dodgers, and I knew this was going to be a huge series. We talked about it. We called it, and it ended up being enormous for the San Francisco Giants. They outscored the Dodgers 12-4 throughout the whole series. What?
Including a shutout on Sunday. They shut them out 2-0 on Sunday. That is huge. To shut out that roster is enormous.
It's huge. Mookie Betts is on my fantasy team. I cannot drop him or trade him or anything like that. And I don't understand why, because he is not giving me anything.
It's to prevent collusion, Brig.
Anyway,
so anti-collusion rules.
The collusion rules? What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's a real thing that I know ESPN Fantasy for sure does. It has anti-collusion rules put in place, especially for leagues that have money. Like ours doesn't, but yeah, it's so that you can't. It's so that if you've decided you're done playing on the league, on the season, and you decide you just want to drop your best players.
Yeah.
But then you were like, hey, Brad, I'm going to drop Mookie Betts. He's going to hit the waiver wire in 20 minutes. Be ready.
Right.
So then I can jump in there and make a claim.
Yeah, but he's not playing well. Anyway, the point is Dave Roberts has spoken out about losing, right? And I'm going to quote him directly here. He says, people get caught up in their own individual paths, but the whole focusing on just winning a game and doing whatever it takes to win that day, we have to get back to that mindset. End quote.
Oh, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, right?
Yep. That's exactly what we talked about.
They kind of seem like they have that attitude that we don't need to win every game. We don't need to try to win every single game. Just go out there and do our thing. And
even we have felt that way about them in the past few weeks. We've literally said they don't need to win every game, and it'll be fine. They're still going to be fine. And while that remains true, you cannot get swept each series and stay in that position. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, because it's not going to be that way much longer if they're not careful.
No, it's not. And they're sliding in every factor. So I don't know what's going on in LA, but it's a big problem.
So the continuation of that quote, Brig, is Dave Roberts saying that he's not going to call a team meeting, but he is going to have some individual conversations with guys to basically find out what's going on. So currently going into Monday, the Dodgers only have a half a game lead on the Padres, and the Giants are 3.5 back.
Wow.
So I know it's June. It's early. It's the middle of June, but still
early, Brad. It's not that early. It's no
because
longer.
It's going to be the end of July before you know it.
Yes, we have crested that magical line where it's not the early part of the season anymore.
Yeah.
We are now in dog day of summer land. This is where the rubber meets the road and everything starts coming out in the wash, and it's based on these games right now. And if it's close, it's going to go back to games in April and May. But right now, it's all about this is where it all happens. So if you are Dave Roberts and you're going to speak to guys individually, who are you going to talk to? Do you pull in team leadership? Do you pull in individual guys that you think are having selfish performances? Do you think do you do both? Who do you go after first to try and right the ship?
I mean, you could almost get two birds with one stone with some of those leadership guys, right? Because some of them might be out there just playing for their stats.
For sure.
I don't feel like thing. I mean, Freddie Freeman just got paid, right? So he's not out there trying to prove anything, trying to get his next contract. He's secure. He's good to go. He's just out there being Freddie and playing baseball.
Yeah. Plus, that's who he is.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you could say the same for Mookie Betts. The Mookie Betts is locked up for a little while. But, do you talk to Cody Bellinger and say, hey, you're pressing. I understand that you're up here pretty soon for free agency. You just need to relax and play baseball, or it's going to be worse for you, right? Or is that putting too much pressure on him? But either way, I think he's a guy you talk to because I feel like he is pressing. Who else? Max Muncy? I don't know.
If it were me, I would go to team leadership, and I would say, if you don't call a meeting, I will, and you don't want me to call a meeting. That's what I would do. I would solve the problem at the lowest level. I would light a fire, and I would say, guys, And I would pull two or three players in together. If I had only 2 leaders, I would pull those guys in. If I had 3 leaders, I'd pull them in. And I would say, you either figure it out or I will. And see what they do. Well, you have nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if that's Dave Roberts' personality, though. The whole, like, you call a meeting or I will, but you won't like it if I do. Because I don't know that's necessarily him, because he seems pretty laid back.
Yeah.
He can get fiery. I just don't know if he gets fiery in the clubhouse, you know?
Well, I don't think he's going to yell and scream. I mean, he's got the heart condition,
right? Yeah,
stuff, but
yeah,
it's not.
He's not gonna.
It's definitely not going to be throwing a table. Yeah, he's not going to upset the apple cart. But what I think he needs to do is shake things up pretty hardcore, and I think that he could, with a flick of his pencil, make just as much impact as he did throwing the table.
It's true.
He doesn't need to scare people verbally or physically. He just needs to flick his pencil a couple of times, and that's it.
That's true, because that's one thing they do in Seattle is they mix up the lineup just about every day. Like lately, it's been whoever plays in right field is based on a right or left-handed pitcher. So if it's a right-handed pitcher, Taylor Trammell plays right field, or starts in right field. If it's a left-handed pitcher, then Dylan Moore starts in right field.
Yeah.
And then as the bullpen comes in, and like if it's like the 7th inning and it's been a righty started, and then it's the 7th inning, they bring in a lefty, then Dylan Moore comes in, replaces Taylor Trammell, and that's just the way it is the rest of the game. One of the things that Seattle doesn't have with that kind of platoon thing is they don't have the threat of pulling a guy based on his performance, whereas in LA, the guys who play every day. Gavin Lux, I think, is the only exception to that. That's just because he has his defensive issues. But like
Cody Bellinger's playing every day, but
that's true. He might not be either because he's out of his offensive issues. But it might be one of those things where Dave Roberts, like you're right, says, "Okay, Justin Turner, you're gonna take a week off."
Yep.
So it could be really interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I just hope they pull it together, because I want competitive baseball. This 12 runs to 4 runs over the course of a series is not competitive baseball, and that bothers me.
Yeah. Well, they're 4-6 over the last 10, lost 3 in a row. And Walker Buehler could be part of the problem why they're losing too. Go ahead.
He could be, but you can't blame it all on one guy. But Walker Buehler is out with a right forearm strain. We all know that forearm or elbow or any of those things are signs that they got to go in and get Tommy John. That's kind of the pattern that we see. We don't know that it'll be right away. We don't know how often or how soon it'll take to pull him. But what we've seen so far from Walker Buehler is the reporting is that he did get an MRI. It revealed no tear at all. And there's no need for surgery at this point, which I thought was shocking. So this is the first time we've seen sore forearm or tight elbow or something that didn't lead to
the forearm tightness,
catastrophic issues in short order. So they're still going to hold him out for 3 months though, which I think may be excessive. But
they're not gonna let him pick up a baseball. I think I saw for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
and so he's completely shut down during that time, and then eventually they're gonna have him work back up, and that's why it's gonna be 3 months. He's on the 15-day IL, so they're not planning on him being out for too much longer than 3 months. But I think I saw late in the season is their plan for him. So they're really playing the long game with him. I think that they're like, if we're gonna win, we're gonna win with or without him this year. And if we need him at the end of the season, that's when we'll have him. But we'd rather have him next year and beyond rather than screw ourselves this year, right?
Well, and hose Walker Buehler too. Like he's a competitor. He wants to play ball, but I mean, he's got to look out for himself, his career. And you're right. The long option for the team next year is also a factor here. And I don't know much about their pitching, but it doesn't seem to be a huge problem.
No, they have one of the best pitching staffs in the game. Part of that, though, is Walker Buehler. I feel like he's a big piece of that. Yeah. But at the same time, though, like they're good. Like Tony Gonsolin might be the best. I think he has the best ERA on the team right now.
Tony's great. I just picked up
he's going to be an all-star.
He's awesome.
Yeah. He's really good.